Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Live It Up, the show where we explore and discuss how to take your life to that next level and beyond. We cover health, wealth, relationships, and how to create a life that really feels good, because that's what we all ultimately want, is we want to feel good. I'm your host and coach, Flecher Ellingson, and right to my right, we have Amy Ellingson.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, what are we talking about on the show today in the health segment?
Cataracts.
Cataracts.
Yes.
Okay. And it's a timely topic to be talking about, and we'll get to that later. And I do want to encourage you to stick around for the health segment, because remember, health is the first wealth. So before we get to that, though, I want to remind you that if you have questions that you would like us to answer on or off the air, email them directly to me at Flecher Ellingson. You don't need to suffer. Do people need to suffer?
No, they don't need to suffer.
They don't need to suffer, because there are answers and solutions and ways to get unstuck and move forward powerfully. You know, it's at this point we usually take a moment and answer an email, but today, in the spirit of feeling good and focusing on what's working well, we want to share some good news, because we're in a world where much of the news creates uncertainty. It feels disappointing or bleak and depressing. So we want to share with you some good, feel-good news, because whatever we focus on, we feel. And whatever we focus on expands. And whatever we focus on, ultimately, we manifest. So let's get to some good news. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, cool. So I shared this with you already, but I'm going to share it with you guys too. There's a neat article I read about this gentleman named Chris Nikic, and he's a 21-year-old person when he was born with Down syndrome, and he just became the first person in our country to participate in and complete an Ironman triathlon.
The first person with Down syndrome.
Yes,
Yeah,
with Down
awesome.
syndrome. Yeah, so he's 21. He did the Ironman in Panama City, Florida, and he finished it. And I love what he had to say. He said, by the way, if anybody doesn't know what the Ironman is, I want to give you a little bit of information on that. That means he completed a 2.4 mile swim. As soon as he got out of the water, he hopped on his bike and rode 112 miles, and then got off his bike and ran a complete marathon, which is 26.2 miles. So in the Ironman, you have about 17 hours to complete it, and he finished it in 16 hours, 46 minutes, and 9 seconds.
Would I be putting you on the spot to ask you how long it took you?
Yes, when I did it over in Coeur d'Alene, I did it in about, it was 14 hours and some minutes. I don't remember exactly, but yeah. It's a lot of exercising in one day.
Yes.
And what I love about him is his mission is to deliver a message of inclusion and leadership, and to help others discover what's possible in their lives. And it was really cool. After he finished the event, he posted on Instagram, he said, Ironman goal set and achieved. Time to set a new and bigger goal for 2021.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, isn't that inspiring?
That's awesome.
Yeah, really, wow. How about you? What you got?
Well, yeah, on that note of people with Down syndrome doing awesome things, which they definitely can do. And I think some people don't realize that, not that many generations ago, people with Down syndrome were considered completely disabled, and families were encouraged to have them be put in homes. So the fact that they're supported and given the opportunity that they are these days is really awesome.
Yeah.
So there was a young woman named Grace Strobel, and she lives in Missouri, and she is now the first woman with Down syndrome that's representing a major skincare brand in our country in commercials and advertising. She's going to be working for Obagi, and she definitely also has a mission of inclusion, and her her personal mission is to have people rethink what is possible. And so it's a really cool story. You could check her out, Grace Strobel.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Rethink what's possible.
Yeah, and it made us think of these two stories that we watched a really good show with our kids called Born This Way. And I believe it was on Amazon Prime, and it was followed these young adults with Down syndrome in Southern California. And you learned so much. You learned so much about what their parents went through, what they're going through, and these hopes and dreams they have, and really inspiring show.
Yeah, I learned so much. And we all feel so inspired after we watch these shows because they're totally going for their dreams.
Yeah.
And what I love about it is many of them, they don't seem to have the same limitations or experience the same limitations. They're kind of like, I can do it, and every time they do something, it's just more evidence that they can go on and on and on and on.
Yeah, like they don't have the same mental limitations, like the same amount of resistance, but they may have all these other limitations. But even despite that, they have these dreams, like that one young man who, wants to get his driver's license. These things that we don't think about, we take, we don't really realize, a lot of them don't drive. Most of them don't drive, and what it takes to actually drive. But they have these big dreams, and they don't really have at least in the show, it wasn't that they felt like in their head, like, I can't do that. They just like were willing to try and try and try.
Right, yeah.
It's
It's
cool.
really inspiring.
Yeah.
Let's see, that reminds me of another movie that we watched recently called Kiss the Ground, which I highly recommend. It is a wonderfully feel-good movie, although the first half of it doesn't feel so good because they're setting you up with the reality of what's going on.
It seemed a little depressing.
It seems a little bit depressing, but again, the movie's called Kiss the Ground, but I learned so much about that, and I came away so hopeful about what's possible for our world, climate-wise and environmentally. And I learned so much that it kind of blew my mind. I won't give it away, but I highly recommend this movie called Kiss the Ground. Watch it to the end because you're going to learn a lot and feel really good as well.
Yeah, and then another piece of really good news that I like is that there has been a significant drop in violent crime over the last several years. And so it dropped by 1%, which doesn't sound like that much, but in 2019, it was the second lowest since it had peaked in 1991. And so that means that there were 367 cases per 100,000 residents in the United States. So that was a significant drop. But even cooler, this was saying that even if you don't adjust for population, it actually also declined, that there were a 0.5% less offenses reported in 2019 than the year before. So I think that is really hopeful, especially I feel like these days where we're all maybe, after this election, people are looking at, gosh, is the other half of the country evil or something, if you don't agree with their views, to know that violent crime has dropped, that feels really good to me.
It feels really good. Yeah, right? Because we're used to hearing so much about violent crime here, there, and everywhere. And it's actually on the decrease. So the last thing I want to share with you all is an article that I read about Chelsea Fair of Danbury, Connecticut. She's a 10-year-old girl, and she, a couple years ago, I guess she lost her swimming instructor, and she passed away, and she was pretty devastated by it. And somebody in her family or community gave her this art set, and she used it to kind of process some of her feelings through art. And it was so impactful and effective for her that she said, I want everybody to have an art set of crayons and markers and things. So she began a charity and set up this charity where she funded it and has given away like 1,500 art sets to kids.
That's awesome.
And her mission is to make sure everybody has an art set so they can process their emotions.
That's really cool.
And I just thought, how cool is that? You can look her up on YouTube. Her name is Chelsea Fair of Danbury, Connecticut. Anyway, very, very inspiring. You just don't know what's possible until you get out there and start taking some risks. And I'm grateful for these people that are out there showing us that.
Yeah, and I think it's also a good reminder of, again, you hear these reasons why we may be on what we don't have in common when you look at the events, like current events, but really underneath it all, most humans have more in common than they have not in common.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, well, hey, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back, and we're going to talk about cataracts today. Stick around. It's actually really interesting.
Welcome back, everybody. I am welcoming you back. And today we're going to talk about cataracts. And I'm putting Fletcher on the spot because he just had cataract surgery last week.
Yeah.
And so
8 days ago.
Yeah. And he's actually doesn't have glasses on, as you guys can see, which is really cool. So what is, now that you just had surgery, what's your understanding of like what a cataract is?
Yeah, so my understanding of what a cataract is that there's like this film over your eye, a real kind of a dense film, and it's kind of just like obscures your vision. It's like looking through a foggy window.
Mm-hmm. Cool, it's pretty good. So yeah, a cataract is a clouding of the normally clear lens that we have in the front of our eye. So for people who have cataracts, seeing through that lens, like you can say, you can attest to, is like looking through a frosted or fogged up window. And it can make, this clouded vision can make it difficult to read, to drive a car, especially at night, and even just to see expressions on faces and details.
Yeah, that is accurate.
Yeah.
That was my experience. So I know you like to look up word origins, so what'd you find out on this word?
Yeah, you know, I actually didn't think to look it up at first, but then the more I typed it and getting ready for this, I'm like, cataracts, where does that come from? So it actually comes from, it's an original Greek origin that meant a waterfall or other things that rush down, like they rush down quickly. So then when it was transferred into Latin, it was the word cataracta. And then in that language, it could mean waterfall, but it could also mean other things that come down fast, like a floodgate. And so they also used that cataracta to describe the graded gate that comes down in a castle, that comes down quickly, like don't let the intruders in. So then that was how it became like something like a film coming over the eye. Mm-hmm. So that was where the origin came from.
Cataracta.
Yeah, cataracta.
One word to say.
Yeah.
It seems like something we hear, commonly about. So, but how common is it actually?
Yeah, so it affects more than 24 million people in our country.
It's a lot of people.
Yes, that are age 40 or older. And then by age 75, if you were to look at everyone's eye in the eye doctor, about half of all Americans have cataracts by the time they're 75. And worldwide, it is just as common as it is in our country, but much less treated. So on the globe, cataracts accounts for 40% of blindness, of causes of blindness. And that's because people in those countries, usually those less developed countries, don't have access to surgery. Mm-hmm. And so that just eventually you go blind.
Yeah. And I would also add to that, because I know just from having gone through it, like when I went in to get my cataract surgery in my right eye, I still have to do my left eye, which is next month. But when I went in, one of the people that came in, they're like, "Whoa, how old are you? You look too young to have cataracts."
Yeah, everyone kept being surprised.
Yeah. So it's in that older population.
Yes,
it sounds
for
like
sure.
Mostly. So let's talk about the symptoms. What are the symptoms of a cataract?
And we alluded to them a little bit, and you even, you were having those same issues that we talked about. The thing is, it happens really slowly over time, and so people, even like yourself, when you said, I don't know how much of a difference this is going to make, because it happens so slowly over time, you get used to it.
Yeah.
And early on, the cataract is just in one part of your lens, and so you may not notice anything until it covers more of a surface area. So like we said, people will have a clouded or blurred or kind of dimming of their vision. They have increased difficulty seeing things at night. They can be really sensitive to light and glare, and you had that issue as well.
Yes, definitely.
And then also you had that you need a brighter light for, especially for reading, and people might even use like a magnifying with a light, which
I did.
I
went out and bought a big magnifying glass, and when I'm reading in bed, I'm like,
but not anymore. And people can have halos over lights, and we all have a little bit of a halo, but like a more marked one, fading of colors, and usually it affects one eye more than the other over time. Like one of yours was worse.
Yeah, this
one. The one
one.
they did, right, was worse. And so as the cataract goes larger, that's when you'll start having problems as it starts distorting the light that is passing through. And so most people in our country go to the eye doctor often enough where they're going to pick it up before you even pick it up potentially. And just to say that, if you're over age 50, people should be going to see the eye doctor at least every 2 years.
Yeah.
That's a plug.
Yeah, and something. My situation was kind of unique, and because again they were like, "Why you're too young to have cataracts? Why do you have cataracts?" Well, and they are suggesting that I had it because I was taking prednisone long term a number of years ago, and that can sometimes result in the development of that. But what are some of the causes of cataracts, and how does it happen?
Yeah, so most cataracts develop during the aging process, or sometimes they can happen after you've had an injury to your eye. There are some inherited genetic disorders that can increase the likelihood of having cataracts if you've had an eye surgery or some sort of eye trauma. Also diabetes, long-term use of steroids, which is a prednisone, which is what you had done. And so the cataract forms in the lens. So the lens is just kind of right behind the very front of the eye. And the lens is the thing that helps focus the light as it passes through. So it produces those sharp, clear images on the retina, and the retina is at the back of the eye. So the light has to pass through the lens. That's what focuses it. That's what focuses the light and the images. And so as you age, the tissue in that lens becomes less flexible and less see-through and thicker. And so over time, the tissue that makes up the lens will kind of break down, and it can even clump together, and that's why it causes the clouding. And as that kind of breakdown of the tissue develops and gets bigger and denser, then you're going to have a harder time having that light pass through the lens, which results in the vision being blurred and also dimmed.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, good explanation. Hey, it's time for a break.
Oh, okay, good.
So we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back, so stay with us. Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. Today we're talking with Amy here about cataracts, and I have some experience with that. We'll get to that in a few minutes, but before we get to that, are there certain things that increase the chance of developing cataracts? And then of course the next question is, what can we do to prevent it?
Yeah, so there definitely are some other risk factors besides just getting older. That's the main risk factor, which we all hope to keep getting older, right? Because the alternative is not good.
Yeah. So
diabetes, excessive exposure to sunlight without good UV protection.
You mean like sunglasses?
Sunglasses.
So, which is funny because growing up, I thought sunglasses were just to look cool and like literally just so you could see better, but I didn't know that it had anything to do with actually protecting your eyes.
Yeah, it really does protect your eye a lot. And any people who, like even if you've ever gone skiing and you didn't have good eye protection on and you have that white, you can actually burn your eyes. I mean,
wow.
It's a big deal. So anyway, yeah, excessive exposure to sunlight, smoking, which we've talked about that a lot of times on our show. We also talk about obesity, the risk factors there, high blood pressure, previous eye injury or surgeries, steroid use, and excessive amounts of alcohol. Those would be the risk factors, which is kind of like lots of things we talk about.
Yeah, those seem to crop up in many of the topics.
They do. So regarding prevention, there haven't been any studies that have really shown for sure effective treatment or effective things for prevention. But having regular eye exams, like I mentioned, and even for you, the doctor, I mean, they saw cataracts on your eyes. Mm-hmm. I mean, an eye doctor sees those even before you might even notice them. So having regular eye exams, quitting smoking, that is a huge thing, not only for your eye health, but other parts of your body. Making sure your diabetes is well controlled if you do have diabetes, and then choosing a diet with lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of colorful fruits that make sure that you're getting all the vitamins, nutrients, the antioxidants. There haven't been studies that have definitively proven that antioxidants can help prevent cataracts, but there was one study that showed that a diet that is rich in vitamins and minerals maybe reduce the risk of cataracts. And most of these studies that look at vitamins and minerals, what happens is it seems like it's much better for us to eat the vitamins and minerals than take them in a pill. It frequently doesn't work when you take it in a pill, but it works when you eat a diet like that. Wearing sunglasses, like we talked about, that block the UV radiation, it says it right there. And then making sure you're not drinking excessive amounts of alcohol, which we've talked about before on the show as well.
Got it. So the surgery I had was really fast and effective. Can you tell us a little bit about the surgery?
Yeah, so most eye doctors suggest getting the cataract surgery when your cataracts start to interfere with your daily life and your quality of life and being able to perform the things that you want to do in your life. There's not really a medical urgency as to when to perform the surgery. It's just when it's usually discussion between you and the doctor as to when it's really bothering you enough.
Yeah, and I'll interject there because when I first went to ask about it, that's exactly what she said. Like, is it interfering? Maybe if it's not, come back later. And so I think that was like 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's been being watched for a while before you did that.
Yeah.
And then, so the cataract surgery is pretty cool. You can actually look it up on YouTube. It's kind of gives me the willies. But they usually numb the eye. The person is asleep. They make about a 2 millimeter incision, a little tiny incision on the eyeball, and they remove the cloudy lens, and then they put in the new lens. And there are different lenses that you can have put in. So, I mean, you can talk about that too. And it's usually a very safe surgery, very few complications, infection, or, something going wrong in the healing process would be the main things.
Yeah, which seems so wild because, sometimes when you get something in your eye and you're like, oh my gosh, it's got something in my eye and it hurts and it's scratchy and you're like rubbing it, and here they are sticking instruments in there and
cutting
breaking things.
But I would say, you felt like there was something in your eye for that first day or day and a half, and then they also all those eye drops that you're on, especially for that first week. There's actually steroid eye drops, anti-inflammatory eye drops, and that's what helps. That's what helps decrease that inflammation, so you don't feel it as much.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about, you just had surgery with Dr. Birmingham from Confluence, and she did a great job.
Yes, definitely. And so even the first day, there was remarkable improvement, and I was able to notice like colors were brighter, and everything it wasn't cloudy anymore. It was really crisp, and they also put in a multifocal lens, so it allows me to see far away. And my computer, like before, if you go back to previous episodes, I'm wearing glasses because I can't see even what was here, but now I can see it clearly. And I can see the monitors, and I can see, the timer, all that kind of stuff, which is really remarkable.
Yeah.
And it's cool too that the brain has to learn how to use that new lens. And I was telling Amy that sometimes it seems like there's like a computer glitch in my vision or my brain or something, where it's like, and it's like figuring out how to use that new lens in the eye, which is really cool.
I know they say they can put like one type of lens in one eye and one type in the other, and I know people with contacts do that too. And it seems like it would just be confusing, but I know that our brains, the back of your brain is where you process visual stimuli, that the brain just figures it out.
Yeah.
But it's made a big difference in your vision already.
Huge difference.
And it's nice that it's an outpatient procedure. It was very, it wasn't a big deal, and you healed up really quickly.
Yeah, I think we went in like at 6:30 in the morning, and then we hung out in Wenatchee to go back at the end of the day at 4 o'clock so she could look at it again, and then after that.
Yeah. So it's if you're delaying the surgery for some reason out of fear that it's going to be a problem, I think it is really safe, and we have really good medical care in the area that can provide that surgery. And cataracts, we have in our country, again, the luxury of having access to lots of different eye centers and surgeries and regular eye exams. So if it's been a while since you've had your eyes checked, go get it checked out. There's lots of places around here to do vision checks.
Yeah. And with that, it's time to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So you know what to do now. It's time to get out there, be a source of kindness, be a source of contribution. You have something to offer this world, and we believe in you.